You know, there's a lot of broadcasters from America working events today, but they're mostly doing football. Hello and welcome to RCI TV for continuing coverage of the GT4 Team Championship, bringing action live from Brands Hatch. I'm Jesse Lee, joined by Tim Peck and Christian Stricker. As always, we've got a lot to talk about today, and it's more than just the championship. Tim Peck, we have a couple of technical problems, don't we?
We do have a couple of technical problems. Of course, everybody knows that ACC was updated. I think it was yesterday they received a huge update, which changed a lot of the balancing of a lot of the cars. But with that came its own problems, which Jesse Lee is actually going to take you through the exact details of right now.
Yes, of course, 1.8 came out just about 24 hours ago, give or take. And with that, there have been a couple of little hiccups. The content's great. I think anyone that's driven the M4 GT3 car, the newest GT3 car in the sim, is having a ball with it. But there is a tiny problem with server hosting. Sometimes there is a mismatch that causes the entire server to hang. And we're not talking about Unreal Engine levels of hanging. We're talking about completely locking up one's PC and causing their wheel to go crazy as well. And you can imagine with so many people investing into direct drive wheels these days, it's not pleasant business. Well, our race admin, who just happens to be running in the series as well, Tom Bryant, had a little conversation with me pre-race today. He has a contingency plan. If the race doesn't go off as planned within the first couple of laps, meaning that the server hangs and breaks, we will attempt one restart of the race. If it then crashes before the halfway point, we will not continue the round. It will either be up to vote by those in the series what round they want to do next week. They can either replace it with this race or go on to the next round, and whichever round's not selected will be completely dropped. The other option is if we make it to halfway, some points, preferably half points, will be awarded based on where everyone was running at the time of the crash. We hope none of that happens, Tim, but it's nice to have a plan if it does.
It's really nice to have that backup plan there. Of course, I think we should be fine. It has looked good so far. We did have a slight problem with the servers earlier, for those of you that were there for that, but that was an entryless desync for a team not joining in the correct order. That wasn't to do with this problem. So I'm touching wood right now. I'm hoping nothing goes wrong, but it is good to know that if it does, we do have the contingency plan in place to make sure everything runs smoothly.
Just to clarify, this is not an RCI problem. This is a sim problem that they have been trying to work out. They've had an emergency patch today, hoping that that fixed it. We're being told that if people restart their Steam, it should fix the issue. I don't know if everyone's got the memo. That could potentially be the problem today. We're going to have to watch out for it, not only today, but for Friday, Saturday as well. And again, it's not an RCI problem. It's an everyone problem, rather, unfortunately. We're all having to work around it.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that we have to work around. Actually, speaking of what's happening on the screen right now, Foch has just put in the fastest lap of a 1:32.3, and it's looking like no one else can catch up yet. So in terms of people showing up, Foch is doing a very good job right now with that lap that he's put in place. But of course, we're in qualifying. You get 15 minutes of qualifying, and that will determine where you start for the race. And yeah, currently we're just watching the cars complete their first laps and they're coming through. This is more just a bank lap at the moment. Of course, there is for once no rain or any problems scheduled on the track right now. So it will be, unlike last week, you will be able to get in as many laps as possible, and we will not have a repeat of the rainy quali that we had at Spa.
If you are British and if you are coming here for vacation, Britain that is, this is almost exactly what the weather's like all the time.
Oh
Sunny,
yeah.
not a cloud in the sky. It definitely never rains here 235 days out of the year.
I mean, I'm in Britain right now, and I can tell you that this is the exact weather outside of my window. It's basically pitch perfect. What is not happening is it's not pitch black dark and pouring with rain. It is a nice, sunny 6 p.m. afternoon in Britain. This is a perfect simulation of our weather right now.
Well, I think Tim Peck's being a little caddish with that one. And I'll tell you something else. I thought Samir Foch had a really good lap, but so far, Deepers in the 99 has taken that spot away by 3/10, and Alexander Bordai's done even better. A 1:31.875, the quickest lap in the session, and even better, a 10th faster than anyone else. Look at that Aston go.
He's doing really well so far, and I believe he also did really well last week. I think Borodai was one of the names that we kept repeating as one of the stronger drivers back at Spa, so it looks like he's got a good spell of races coming along at the moment. Is that Jake Boswell actually stopping his car? Apparently he's lining up a lap. It looks like he's just going to try and get a good run up there coming in, and we look like we've got a
Okay.
bit of a hold up.
Hmm, I ooh, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Tim. I just don't like that. I think that was very reckless and unnecessary.
Yeah, I'm not really 100% sure what was happening on either side there. I mean, I guess it was like a build-up, but I think he took a little long building it up, maybe because he saw this other car coming and thought, are they going to cut in front, and they didn't. Yeah, I think you can see what's happening, right? You can see where the other cars are on track. I think the respectful thing there to do would have been just to wait for Boswell to get going with his lap, really.
Did I not see what I thought I saw with that Porsche taking the Indy course?
Yeah, he came out from the right-hand side from the Indy track, so he completely cut that end bit off and cut right across.
The stewards won't have a look at that because there are no stewards, but if that is reported post-race by Jake the Boss Meister Boswell, then that could be heavy penalties indeed for not so much cutting the course, but that would be considered an unsafe rejoin in my book.
Yeah, I was going to say, in terms of what his plan was in his head, I actually quite like the idea of cutting the course. I think maybe it's not the best thing to do, but if you've messed up that first couple of corners, then by all means, if it's in there to cut the course, then obviously cut the course. I think how he's done it, though, it was particularly unsafe. Obviously, he just veered out straight in front of Boswell. But also, maybe it's just a bit too risky anyway. I'm not sure what the visibility's like there. I think it's pretty good coming out that corner, so he should have really been able to see Boswell on his screen, but I'm not 100% sure how I feel about that one. A part of me likes it, and another part of me is like, you probably shouldn't have tried that in the first place.
Well, I have been updated by Seb Brunier in chat. There was one emergency client-side patch and 2 server-side patches that Kunos have been dealing with. They've been trying to get grips with the issue at hand, and, knock on wood, it's smooth sailing so far. We'll hope that we no longer have any issues today, and in the future, we'll still have about 9 minutes there or so of qualifying left to go, and they're calling out our weather reports. In fact, they're saying that that's nothing like what the British weather system's like. I'm going to completely disagree. I think it's almost like Spain, isn't it, the weather? It's perfect almost all the time.
Britain is well known for its sunny spells, I must say. If you're looking for the sun, if you're one of the people to chase the sun around, Britain is the place to go, because you can always guarantee a sunny day here in Britain, no matter what time of year it is. Jokes aside, though, quali so far has been, I'd say, rather exciting. Obviously, usually we have the same sort of people at the top. You've got Verstappen up there, you've got maybe Fischer. I can't actually see them right now, which is making me think maybe their teammates are qualifying this time around. And so far, I mean, we've got Borodai on pole and Deepers currently in second, so it looks like a bit of a mix-up so far this week.
It does, and look at the name in third place. That's Jake Bosmeister Boswell. We talked about him earlier being perhaps maybe a little bit impeded, but not impeded at all on the scoring. Just about 1.5 tenths off the fastest lap. And a welcome back to Jake Boswell. He 2 weeks ago had a busted up finger, raced anyway, said that he regretted it. A week ago was too ill to compete. His teammate raced solo, as you may remember. Boswell back in the 3.73, and out there looking like he's going to stick it inside the top 5.
We can only hope so. Foch is also on a very good lap right now as we watch him He's currently up on his time. He's got, I think he's about 3 attempts up as he's coming into the final corner here. So we will see whether he can improve his time. But currently on pace to be around third, I believe. He might just be able to sneak past Boswell there, although it looks like he's lost a little bit of time on that final corner, but maybe the pull will be enough. No, not quite, but that is an improvement on his time, and Foch will keep 5th position there, actually just in time to get that in, because Nyring in the Alpine had just put in a very good lap, and that would have been enough to put him above Foch. So Foch had an improvement, and it's kept him in 5th so far.
I think the standout this entire season to me, and we talk about this every week, we're going to continue to talk about it, is the Alpine. We expected them to struggle at some places, and they really haven't. You look at Spa a week ago, they didn't really struggle there at all. There was one inside the top 5, there were a couple inside the top 10, and here again, this is a track I wasn't necessarily sure what we were going to get. There's a lot of those medium speed corners that the Alpine does really well, but also there's a lot of long straightaways as well. Doesn't seem like any of them are struggling here so far.
Yeah, I think the Alpine, I agree, has been the surprise car this season. From the get-go at Silverstone, it's just been outperforming everything we've been saying, basically. It seems like every week we go, the Alpine might struggle here, and then one of them goes and puts it on the podium. So the Alpines have done incredibly well so far. Speaking of people who've done well so far, though, I don't see the McLaren that has been rather dominant, let's say, in the past couple of races here today.
Yeah, sure has. And there's a couple of other cars that I'm looking at too. Look at Watson, the 7. They're currently leading in silver. That would do them a world of good for the points. We will have points for you for all 3 categories following qualifying. And of course, Watts, that would be an excellent addition of points. And what about Wisniewski here in the
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
7 as well, doing an excellent job so far up the field. That is incredible from them. Phil Roberts moving up a spot into 15th overall and just about 5th in class.
Yeah, that 727 has had a good past couple of races. I know they had a very good time at Spa as well, and they all the way up there in 8th right now. The last time we saw that was, I believe, it was Jan Yo, I think, was the Ginetta to do a good performance, and that was at the other British circuit, Alton Park. So some of the AMs have actually been really stepping up their game, and it seems like a lot of them are getting a lot more comfortable in themselves and setting in some really good laps. So actually, in terms of development throughout the season, I'd say a lot of these AM drivers, you'll notice once you get to the leaderboards, they've actually been promoted because a lot of them have done really, really well and improved their driving across the season. So personally, I'm excited to see how the 77 performs today, if that's just a one-off lap or if they can keep that pace up for the entire race.
Yeah, that's going to be it. Of course, outright pace isn't what puts you in your class, it is your consistency as well. And also, if you have a teammate that is, just a bit off your pace, then that also can go into it. Martin Lawrence, the Jesus is my teammate 304 BMW, was running a really quick lap. He's coming to line and he almost took the pole, 25 100 slower, but a 131.802, good enough for second place. A car crashing there down Paddock Hill before you get into Druids. Scary moment for everyone coming through, but nobody affected. A really quick lap for Martin Lawrence, though.
I wonder where that car came from. They just sort of appeared from one of those spots where you don't usually see cars appear from there, just at the side of the Druids. But I imagine what happened was they just got a bit of oversteer going through that first downhill corner there and managed to find themselves on the wrong side of the track. Oh, there goes Foch by the look of it. Oh, there goes everyone by the look of it. This might be the server crashing we were talking about earlier. It's qualifying, so Jesse, correct me if I'm wrong, do we just start the race from now because we've only got a minute left of qualifying, or do you know what happens from here?
I'm not entirely sure. Tom Bryant will be along shortly to tell us that. That's what we're talking about, by the way. That does happen. We're hoping to be able to fix that. I think from this point we would still try and run the race. I think we would fast forward to qualifying and we would try to run the race. Considering I don't think that counts as a full attempt. So what we're gonna do a little radio RCI with Tim Peck and myself, and we will try and bring you news when we have it. Of course, if anyone's wondering what the intro was about, I talked about American commentators. I was talking about football today, and I'm doing a GT race. Well, of course, it's Thanksgiving in the United States today, a federal holiday, otherwise known as a bank holiday in many other parts of the world. And I've been celebrating myself a little bit as well. And a lot of Americans today doing football commentary and the like. Well, I'm happy doing GT racing as it is a bit more entertaining to say the least.
Yeah, Thanksgiving has been one of the main events of the day. There's actually quite a lot going on right now for the whole sort of day in general. I mean, Black Friday starts up tomorrow, which obviously a lot of people are excited for, although I'd say that's arguably started early for a lot of people because now it seems to just sort of start around the previous Friday for a lot of companies, but a lot of companies, Amazon, they've started their Black Friday sale. So if you're hoping to get some good deals on gaming, maybe you want to get ACC, maybe that will go on sale. Then now is the time, obviously, to be looking. And you've also got Cyber Monday coming up, which is where a lot of the tech is supposed to come on sale as well. So maybe it's the time to invest in a new wheel if that goes on sale. So keep your eyes peeled this weekend because you might be bargaining yourself a very good deal.
Do you just happen to work in the partners there at Fanatec? I know that they have some Black Friday deals as well. Use our affiliate link at fanatec.com and pick yourself up a Black Friday deal and help us out in the process by using our link. As it turns out, we jumped the gun a little bit. That was not the server having a issue. That was us having an issue. We do beg your pardon, and we are back with the conclusion of qualifying and Alexander Board, I think, is still on pole over Martin Lawrence, Deepers, Boswell, and Eyring, the top five. Fosh, Matushka, Wisniewski, Stevenson, Schumann, the top 10. Of course, Wisniewski in the 727, by far and away the quickest car in AM. Schumann eventually wrestled the pole away from Watts and Sontag, make up the starting front three in silver. And then you got to go back to 20th for Marshall in the second place position in AM. Well, we have the results of qualifying. We will get to the race in just a moment, but before we can do that, I think it's time we take a look at the points.
And they should just be coming up on your screen now. There they go. Oh, they're not quite there yet. They'll be arriving shortly. What I was just going to say quickly, though, is I mean, we've seen what happens with the multi-class racing before. I think this could be quite interesting, but here's the championship standings.
Well, we're going to start off with Pro, of course. FFS Racing has just been nigh on unbeatable and very impeccable indeed in the 123. You wouldn't expect anything different from the McLaren team, but 202 points for them. Peak performance in second place at 166. NSN Racing in the 747 has 150 points. Fourth place, the Jesus is My Teammate 304 BMW, 5 points behind them, 145. Rounding out the top five, Boring But Fast in the 878 with 140 points, 5 points themselves back. So all of those teams are only about 10 points out of a final podium position. Behind them, the HWT Motorsports team with 118, Triple R Academy Tryhards with 96, Sin Ministers with 91, Crunch a Punts A team still haven't messed up that name with 87 points, and the SS1122 team in the 1122 Aston with 73 points. Going to the back half of the pro grid, we still only have the one disqualification in pro, but Lutz Motorsports in the 99 with 69 points. Nice. Underground Racing League in the 21 with 37, and Big Ones Esports Club with 34 points.
And this will be your silver lineup for the championship so far. Race Ventura Rally Tryhards are in first place with 183 points. That's from the Alpines that we mentioned was doing very, very well this season so far. Tader's Pork Pie English Mustard is in second with 151 points. Third and fourth are currently tied for 141 points. That's Wild Things Racing and Redline Racing League. So they'll be tied for 141 points, the final place on the podium currently. Temporal Name Motorsport is in fifth. Cunch of Bunts B team is in sixth in the BMW. They've got 118 points. Saw Buckets is in the Alpine just behind. Wild Things Racing SS and Alemia Aiken Esports are currently lining up 8th and 9th. John Daddy is in 10th place at the moment with 88 points. And I believe we're going to shortly. Yeah, we're just moving on to the back half now, and I believe both of these teams are actually disqualified at the moment. Grand Familiar Racing Team and Virtual Racing Team, they have been disqualified from the championship, both for no showing in the first race. So that is why they both sitting there with 0 points currently. But that will round out the silver field, which has been quite competitive the past few weeks currently. Moving on to the Anfield, though. Wheelbarrow Racing Team is in first place. That's the Aston Martin that is currently on pole position. They have 192 points. With 174 points behind, Redline is in second. They're driving the BMW. R4F currently rounds at the podium. They're in the Chevrolet Camaro. They've got 155 points. The Chevrolet, actually, I was going to say just today, also been doing very, very well this season. We've seen a couple of fights, including that Chevrolet, that have gone rather well for the Chevrolet team. So I'm sure they'll be hoping to continue that streak of racing today. In fourth place, we have Turn 1 Heroes. They have 111 points. They're in a BMW, and also in a BMW, just behind them is Shuffle Sport. They're in fifth with 101 points, so 10 points behind their BMW friends there in the AM split. And in sixth place for AM, we have Smelly Candids. They are in the Mercedes AMG with 92 points. So they've got a little bit of catching up to do, but they are not that far behind. There's only 9 points to the team ahead, which they can make up today. So they will be looking for a good result to put them back in the AM field at the moment. And well, Jesse, that's what the championship standings are looking like so far. How do you feel it's going?
Well, I think if you are wheelbarrow team, it's going really well. The same if you're FFS Racing. But we talked. I read through the pro, and you talked about silver. It's very competitive in all of those categories, and even in AM, there's only about 20 points or so in it. So it's not the end of the world. There's still time to do a lot of damage. Keep in mind, 65 points for a win. There's bonus points for fastest lap and pole position as well. So all of that considered, there are a lot of points on the table. You know what I was just thinking when you were reading that? I reminded me of something from my formative years. I thought it was wheelbarrow for a long time, and the first time I ever had to go to one of those lawn and garden centers to get one, and it was spelled barrow. It kind of blew my mind a little bit. It's what happens when you grow up in the South in North America, I think.
Eh? I I'm not sure I 100% followed your story there, Jesse Lee, but fair enough. I've had my fair share of pronouncing things wrong in my life, but
And now
yeah.
I do it for a job.
Exactly. So what goes around comes around. You've got a job where you have to pronounce everything perfectly on the first try. So that is how it's going to go. Currently, it's looking like very wet weather. I believe that's just the overlay actually on the screen right now that we've got
Mm.
just to sort of highlight Brands Hatch, but that's not the weather we were seeing a bit ago. So I'm sure a lot of people will not want that sort of weather now as we're back to the sunny weather on the current just sort of lit up screen. It's back to rain again. So a bit of a show of what could come today. I imagine from just looking at the weather forecast when we were last in the race, it's supposed to be a sunny race today, but we know what's happened in previous races. Spa was riddled with rain from start to finish. And Silverstone, actually, that's the real talking point of the season so far. Started out nice and sunny, with Jesse commenting on how unlikely it was to be sunny at Silverstone, and about halfway through the race, it decided to pour it down with rain.
All jokes aside, that is British weather. If you don't like it, just hang out for a little bit. It will definitely change. And it definitely did on that day. For those of you wondering, isn't this around the time we get to the grid? Yes, it is. Well, we may have jumped the gun a little bit earlier, but now we are certain that there has been a back end calamity, and we're currently clearing that up, or we're not doing that. Tom Bryant, race admin, is doing that, undoubtedly attempting to pull the qualifying results and just jump straight into the race. But as you can appreciate, that is a bit of a process. So in the meantime, back to Radio RCI with Tim Peck and myself, Jesse Lee, Christian Stricker on the cameras with you here. And we mentioned it might be an adventurous day, and we're definitely in uncharted territory. 1.8 came out just 24 hours ago. There's been 3 patches since that point to try and fix some of these issues. Yeah, it does happen. There's a lot that can go wrong, and unfortunately, today we are getting a little bit of that. But we are not letting it rain on our parade, so to speak. And we are going to get a race here, one way or another. Of course, the contingency plan by the race admin is if it crashes at the beginning of the race, at this point, I almost feel like he would call it, considering we've had issues getting to this point. But if we make it halfway or more, he is willing to give points for this round. So that is how it's going to shake out today. And we're just along for the ride as well. We may not be driving, Tim, but I mean, we're in the same boat.
We are. We've just obviously it's just waiting to find out what the outcome is. Really, I personally do hope that they drive. Obviously, it's lovely to watch the GT4s on a Thursday evening. It is possibly one of the highlights of my week. I'd say is coming to commentate on this championship because there's always some brilliant fights happening on the screen. But talking about the rest of the update, the good side of the update, I don't know if you know anything about any of the new changes. I've heard reports that the BMW, both the GT3 and the GT4 BMW, have significantly improved. Now, the GT3, that's huge. For the GT4, the BMW is already arguably one of the best cars. So, if that has improved, the BMW could be looking like a very, very scary person to go up against if you're not the person driving it.
Yeah, of course. I'm going to disagree with that. I like to be a contrarian, and I will be on this particular occasion. I don't think it is. I still think on every single track, the BMW, the new one, the 2022 M4, I believe it's outclassed on every single track by a significant margin. But I think the BMW, the M4, the new one, I think that might be the new sort of trainer car, the new entry point into ACC. And just because a car is not as quick as another car or brand doesn't mean that it can't have success. How many times have we seen the Aston V8 in the V12, who we know are not the strongest cars in any particular condition, but they're good enough to get the job done. And with talented hands, especially the esports pros that we have here at ACC, it's definitely possible. Anybody can win.
I mean, we've seen plenty of Aston Martins up on the podiums in a lot of different races, actually. So they've done very well so far. And actually, speaking of cars that tend to get a bit of a bad reputation for being maybe a little weaker, the Ginettas as well. I mean, we've been talking all season so far about how well the two Ginettas we have here do, and both have done an amazing job so far. And whilst it's definitely not the worst car that there is on the grid. I'd say it definitely is not the strongest car either. Obviously, its acceleration and top speed are nothing to be too smiley about, but a fun car to drive nonetheless, and one that both drivers in this championship, anyway, have done really well on so far.
I loved in my time with the M4, I loved rocketing past people on the straights, and the braking is decent. It's going to be, and mark my words, the BMW M4 will be a great all around car. It has a lot of great points from other cars in itself. So if you are looking into getting into ACC, and if you are looking for a good starter car, I would absolutely recommend that M4. It is absolutely planted. It's super stable. I'm trying to crack it up around the Nürburgring yesterday, and I actually found it quite difficult to break its traction, even in the Dunlop hairpin and the chicane. Well, as you can see, we are back to live cameras. The session has a few minutes for everyone to get back in and get ready to go. I think the session will be forwarded to the race. I think the previous qualifying will stand. And just in case it doesn't, we're going to qualifying. But I think we will fast forward to the race. We'll see.
I imagine we'll go to the race here. I mean, it's like we said, there's only about a minute left of qualifying anyway, so there's no point continuing it from there because, of course, you won't even get to do one lap by the time you make it around the track. But in terms of how the qualifying went, I mean, it would be fairly interesting to see that order, really. I was definitely excited to see Borodai start on pole. He's been very good in the last two races, and I'm personally excited to see how long he can defend it for. So I think in terms of the current order we have, if we did move on to the race, I would be happy watching that group of people start where they are right now.
Yeah, it always feels bad too, because not only would you deprive somebody of points where they otherwise would have gotten them, uh, it's also frustrating to have to go back to that, isn't it, and do it all over again. I've been a part of that myself on numerous occasions. Never at ACC, thank goodness, just in some other sims where we've been told, sorry guys, we've had a bit of a mistake. We're gonna have to redo that, and then you can't replicate what you did in that first session, and it just feels like the world's against you a little bit. So hopefully, everybody will get to start where they were. You know, with another dark horse picket. Now that we have a moment to talk about it, the Janettas. What was up with the Janettas at Spa Francorchamps? They came alive.
And that's what I was saying. Like the Janettas have been doing so well so far this season. They did really well at Spa. I mean, both teams were just doing phenomenally in those Janettas, and at Alton Park as well. We saw one of the Janettas did so good there as well. They were one of the AMs at the time fighting. Even the pros, I think they were fighting at Alton Park. So these Janetta drivers, they are nothing to turn your nose up. So far, all four of them in the two respective cars have done absolutely amazing this season. Personally, they're some of the funnest cars to watch. They are always in the centre of the action. They're always been racing. Whether they are trying to overtake someone or being overtaken, they have always been slap bang in the middle of the action, and they've just been such a pleasure to watch. It's been so exciting watching these Janettas so far this season.
This whole season has been pretty good. I mean, you take FFS Racing, who has 3 podiums, 2 wins in this session. You don't think about that for a moment, and you go, yeah, it's been incredibly competitive. There's not been a single week where you and I, Tim, have been in this booth where we've known what the outcome was be. We've had thoughts on what we assumed would happen as far as racing, but I feel like there's always been pleasant surprises every week. We were curious what Janetta would do at Spa. Turns out they were really good. Denise Pope did such a good job in their Janetta in the 79 as well. And I think maybe, and I hate to say this, a season ago, we were talking about how good the Chevrolet Camaro was, weren't we? And I think this season, maybe not so much. I wonder what's different.
I mean, the Chevrolet Camaro won the last season of the GT4s. Verstappen obviously managed to pull the championship away from, I think it's Abeladze in the final couple of races, and managed to hold off both Fischer and Machushka as well. So he had an absolutely amazing season in that Chevrolet, but opted into driving the Alpine this season, and it looks like they made the correct switch because, as you're saying, the Chevrolet, whilst we've seen it in quite a lot of battles, I think it's definitely not as dominant as it had looked. I mean, we weren't expecting it to be dominant, but it looked really good last season, and this season it's looked okay, but I wouldn't say it's been anything special so far.
I would use that word too. That's exactly what I'd say. It's not that Chevrolet has underperformed this season, really, because we didn't expect it to take it all last year. It's just in comparison, it feels like they're just okay. Speaking of being okay, we are on the grid. The previous qualifying has stood, and a big shout out to Tom Bryant for that. That was very quick work. I know what goes into that. You have to pull files off the server, you have to re-upload them, and then completely remake a new server with the entry list. It's a whole thing, folks. Trust me. And to get that done as quickly as he did, and you get it turned around, the true sign of a professional. Tim Peck, is this where you live?
This is not where I live, although you could mistake it. These houses actually do look very similar, which is a little scary. I'm wondering if they
Is this
modelled
you?
this of me. Actually, if you look in that window there, that's me waving. Can you see me? There I am.
That one house absolutely had a sign, like they had a security system. Can we look back at that, Christian? Yeah, that one right there. The one that, yeah, that's it. What is that?
I think we actually have those in quite a lot of houses. It's just a security thing. It depends. If that's in the window, that might be one of those security watch signs. A lot of people tend to have them here in Britain. I don't know why. It became sort of like a fad at one point to have a sign in the
Hmm.
window that said "Neighborhood Watch. You're being watched by the neighbors," and that was supposed to deter criminals from breaking into your house, of course. But it's I mean, it's definitely an interesting because I don't see the downside of having a sign like that in your window at the very least.
We're having fun on a Thursday, can you tell, as we always do. And we thank you for being with us and bearing with us as we get through some of these pesky technical gremlins that have we've known could be an issue leading up to today and could continue to be an issue. But it's something, like I said, that it's not an RCI thing. We're all dealing with that as a community. We're obviously very much a part of the ACC community, and you take the better and the worse, and you get some great racing out of it. So here is the plan today. I have been told by race admin, Mr. Tom Bryant, that if the race crashes at any point during today, that will be it based on the issues that we've had to lead up to this point. If we get to around the halfway point, hopefully the halfway point in earnest, there is the potential for half points or some points to be awarded. If we don't get to around the halfway point, the likelihood is the round will be abandoned, or next week's race will be replaced with this race, and next week's race will be abandoned. There will not be a round added to the end of the season. I've been told there's just not time for that, but for right now, let's be positive. We've got cars on the grid, some 23, 24 in tow, and we are about to go racing for an hour and 20 minutes. Tim Peck, who's your money on today?
Oh, that is a good question. I think Octane's actually in a very good place right now. They're starting in second, so they'll have a great run on Borodai going into turn 1 there. And I think that would be, that's actually Lawrence in second place, currently driving the car right now. But I think they'll have a very good run into turn 1 and might be able to actually just about hit the Aston Martin. We know how fast that BMW can be in the straights, although actually saying that, you did mention that there has been a couple of changes. Deepers as well has been very consistent this season. I wouldn't be surprised if Porsche also got a great result there. So I think maybe either that BMW or that Porsche, they're not starting on pole, but I think we could see them possibly on pole after that first corner.
Just in case I don't get to say this at the end of the race, a big thank you to all of you for joining us here on a Thursday. And we invite you to like, subscribe, hit the bell for more GT racing action. We'll be back with you tomorrow for the continuation of the Friday GT3 Championship. And of course, potentially, most likely on Saturday evening for more night owl coverage with myself and Ryan Mawson on both of those calls. And a big thank you to all of our partners here at RCI that make this race and every race possible. Driver61.com. Use our discount code. Get 25% off driver coaching at Driver61.com. You can find the link and the code in the description of this video. Big thank you to Fanatec as well. Fanatec makes top-notch sim racing equipment. If you're in the market for any direct drive equipment, then Fanatec has you covered. In fact, has some Black Friday deals going on right now. In fact, so go over to Fanatec.com, use our affiliate link in the description, and help us with things like server costs, simracing.gp, a great place to get excellent racing if you're tired of the pub lobbies. AK Informatica for providing the servers, and Race Department, of course, your source for all sim racing news. Tim Peck, we're about to start. Take it away.
And they are just coming onto the main straight now, and they're about to cross the start-finish line. Got a little bit of time here before they actually make it there, so they won't be accelerating too soon. But like I said, it's also look out for in the first corner here. This could change the order, and the BMW looks like they are already off to an amazing start right now. They're practically level with Borodai already going into the first corner. There's been actually a little bit of a tap there that sent the BMW back into the pack, and Borodai will now start to pull away. So that is the ideal start for the Aston Martin there, and he's got himself a nice little gap already. But other than that tap, I didn't see too much trouble behind, which is good news for the rest of the drivers. You can now see Boswell racing with the pink Mercedes currently at the moment. He's looking for the inside on the next corner, and it looks like he's going to have it. That's going to be a very good start for him there. He's going to have the inside for the next corner as well, and then it'll be a nice long straight, so we'll see if he can hold it together through here. That pink Mercedes looks like it's handling the corner very well so far, but Boswell is going to be able to push his way through, and that will be the overtake to get into 5th place for Jake Boswell.
Yeah, it sure is. Well, not the best start for Martin Lawrence in the 304. Had contact. Hard to tell if Borodai was off the apex or maybe Martin Lawrence was just a little cutting in to the corner and expected to have more room. Unknown. Well, certainly the 304 got the worst into that. Borodai is clear by 0.3 of a second on Deepers in the 99, but the Streppen in the 747 Alpine. We talked about the Alpine pre-race, how good that car races. Is this a good track or a bad track for the Alpine? I figured we'd know early, and right now Verstappen making it look like a primo choice. Meanwhile, Jake Boswell looking back at Wolf Matuszka. These two know each other quite well. Jake Boswell back in the car for the first time in 2 weeks, showing them how to do it in 5th place. Wolf Matuszka wants that place, and so does Stevenson behind.
and I'm not sure if he's going to be able to get it. He's still a little bit far back on the Aston Martin coming into the first corner here, and it doesn't look like he's got quite the position he wants to dive, and both of them actually picking up quite a lot of dirt on the inside there. They don't want to do that too often. They won't pick up any warnings for that, but it might throw off the car, and we've already seen one car coming back from that side of the track so far, but Jake Boswell manages to hold on to 5th place for the rest of the lap so far, and going into lap 2, it looks like he may be in a better place now to start defending from Machushka behind. But in terms of good starts, I'd say Verstappen and Boswell will take what they've got so far this week. I mean, you can't get much better starts than that. I think Verstappen started 5th, and he's all the way up in the podium now.
Yeah, Verstappen made the best out of the 304's error, and going back to what we were previously looking at, Boswell and Matuszka, if there's one guy I would not want to have to get around, it's Jake Boswell. If there's one guy I wouldn't want in my mirror that I knew would eventually get around me, it's Wolf Matuszka, so it's going to be very interesting to see how that battle for 5th goes. Meanwhile, a battle for what is 18th place. Looks like Gray in the 74 getting it done. Tom Bryant falling back a little bit.
Oh.
The car off into the dirt. Is that Marshall? I think it might have been. As everybody trying to scrap, you lose a little, you lose a lot around here. There's no room for error. You can't go off track. You just lose time. Meanwhile, cars going off in the background. Was that DeBall? I'm not sure. But cars going off in the background, and that is the case here at Brands Hatch. Happens every lap.
Yeah, it's really hard to keep on the track here. There's so many corners which you've just got to take really fast, and they're a little tighter than they look sometimes. Obviously, someone actually went off, I believe, in the out lap. They went slightly wide there, but managed to recover quickly. But it just goes to show how easy it is to go a bit wide here. Although you can get away with it, you don't want to be doing it too often, because every time you go off, it's just another risk of losing it and spinning out. And whilst it's, you know, you can go off and join back, I wouldn't want to go off here. That is some rough dirt, and you could very easily spin your car.
Yeah, you sure can. And I mean, the Wolf Matuszka trying to make the pass up the inside. Jake Boswell defending around the outside. Will he have room? The pass is made. Wolf Matuszka for peak performance inside the top 5. Excellent fight with Boswell there. Boswell's going to have to get his head back on him and start moving forward here. Hasn't had an excellent start here, and now down a split pace. And now, of course, Stevenson behind in the 871. Will the Chevrolet have the legs here?
We always talk about how good Machushka is at defending as well, and now we get to see how good he is at attacking. He made that very, I'd say, quick move. It only took him about a lap to get back through Boswell there, so he's going to be very happy with that, and I'd say he's now where he's most comfortable. He knows how good he can be on the defence. But we're going to look right now at the fight for, I believe this is 11th. Watts is holding off Sontag currently, who's actually holding off Roberts. The Alpine managed to find his way up into the fight as well. Now, Roberts and Sontag will be fighting for position here, as Watts is in a different class right now. He's in the pro and the other two in silver. So Watts basically just has to stay out of trouble, whilst Roberts is looking like he's ready to come through at any point in time. They're just coming down the main straight now, and it looks like he's going to be too far back, but he's eager to get through, and it looks like he's going to do it soon.
I'll tell you something else that's interesting that's happened. Watts has got by Schumann for the lead in silver as well. Oh, there's going to be contact there. Polanco is going to nearly go around and save it, but a car in the background off as well. And it goes all wrong into Druids that time, and cars continuing to go off. Polanco off again, losing more spots. It's been 2. How about 3? Tom Bryant here getting past. It's calamity on this lap.
That was a beautiful dive from the BMW there, but it looks like Brian might actually be able to get this back on the straight. No, the BMW is just too powerful compared to the Alpine speed there. There is absolutely no challenge in it. It looked like Brian had the switch back, and just they didn't have the speed to compete, but that was just unfortunate. It looked like the car behind Polanco actually missed their braking point, or at least locked up their brakes and just hit Polanco in the rear and sent them
Polanco
to the track.
again!
He looks so unstable at the moment. He needs to sort of get back in the mindset and just focus on the road for a little bit and just make sure he stays on track for the rest of this lap.
That's what I was talking about with Boswell earlier. It's so important to get back on the horse, you know, get your head right, get your head back in the game. I think Boswell did a decent job of that. I think Polanco struggling with something in that car. I don't know if it maybe is damage or just something to do with the tires, but unsettled, running wide nearly off of every corner as if he doesn't have the grip. That could be a lot of things, including scrubbed tires. I'm unsure, but that car is not doing what Alexander
Oh
Polanco needs.
no!
Bryant, though, loses it in Paddock Hill, hard into the inside wall. Tom Bryant.
Oh, this is not going to be a repeat of Spa. We saw him at Spa. He went off the track, he hit the wall, and he actually stuck it out to the end of the race. I don't think that is going to be optional, as they've still got an hour and 13 minutes left to go, and he's already sliding there. But as you were saying on the tyres, from experience of driving these cars, once you go off track and you burn up those tyres, it is really hard to just get them to cool back down again quickly. You have to drive that much safer. And when you're in the situation that Polanco is in there, you just have to try and be safe, even though you've got a lot of pressure from behind. Speaking about pressure from behind, Watts here coming towards Schumann. That is a lot of pressure. It looked for a second like Watts was actually about to make a move coming through this section, but he's fallen a little bit far back since I've made that comment. But Schumann is currently under pressure for the lead of Silver right now from Watts behind in the Porsche.
Well, we've seen it from Silver most of the season. It's been fantastic watching the Silver drivers come through and race each other. Now Schumann back in the lead in Silver after losing it on the start. Mark Macha in chat brings up a very good point. He wants to see the new rain effects on the broadcast camera. Of course, the 1.8 update was more than just a car and some BOP tweaks. It was physics. It was a lot of things, including some quality of life improvements, one of which is the rain, which we're not going to see today. Close action here. He's trying to cut him off, and it's going to be a near spin. DeBont nearly gets spun in Paddock Hill. Let's face it, there were cars off in front of them. What are they going to do as they all come into Druids? Very close stuff there. Everybody just about gets it going. Nearly spun. You have to wonder what Marshall was thinking there. And you got to wonder what DeBont was thinking there as well, as he nearly makes contact there. That's not Polanco there. Whom is that? Is that Sontag, I wonder?
I think that's Sontag. It looks like his livery, and he must have fallen back a little bit. So whoever's behind Sontag must have had a little bit of trouble there. I believe that was Roberts. So we'll see what happens there. But I can't believe DeBont managed to keep that together. I thought he was going to get spun. It actually looks like Marshall here is showing off the BMW speed on the straight. It may not be the same car it was, but it has still got the speed that it had before, and he has made a very clean overtake on DeBont there. He just made that look easy after what seemed like it was going to be the end of the race for one of them. That's a scary situation to be in. I'm very impressed that DeBont managed to hold it on there.
Yeah, that was very close indeed. We talked about the Chevrolet may not having it, but that he had it there. He had the grip at least. Meanwhile, he's going to be side by side. To the outside is going to be I think that's the 727. And the 727 might have this as they've been able to hold it. That's not the easiest thing to do. Oh, a little bit of a bump here again. What's going on between these drivers? And a shunt, and off the track in the final corner is Martin DeBont as he's gone for a spin to the grass. This is going to be a dangerous retake. Oh no, in contact with Ryan in the 96. That rejoin was very dangerous.
I was about to say DeBont is being bullied here by all the other drivers, but it turns out at the end of it, he's the one that did the main bit of bullying. He's just taken out that car at the back there, and that is not going to be the ideal situation for either. But it did seem like DeBont there was getting absolutely bullied. I mean, we saw Marshall come through, and from that point forward, it just looked like the entire speed of the Chevrolet dropped off in a matter of seconds, and every single car was overtaking it in very quick succession. I think it just comes back down to what we were saying, is the Chevrolet, it's been okay this season, but it's just not standing out as much as it did last season. It looks like it's actually struggling out on track.
Oh dear, well, you hate to see it, and I know Tom Bryant's in the pit lane getting repairs to his car. Apparently a ton of repairs needed. We didn't quite see it from the angle. It was the Druids angle looking down towards Paddock Hill, and you can't see in the divot, but certainly hard contact with the wall, a lot of damage, and a bit disappointed, I should say. And I can tell you the stewards are going to be disappointed with, well, first of all, whomever that was that spun DeBont, and of course his rejoin was certainly out of line a little bit as well. Meanwhile, look at this fight here. This is Wolf Matuszka on Martin Lawrence. Lawrence never really recovered from the lap 1 contact after he was shuffled back. And here is Matuszka. And Jake Boswell, by the way, despite Matuszka getting by him, Boswell hasn't dropped off the back here.
No, Boswell is still very much in range to strike, and he's looking like he's going to try and do it soon. But currently at the moment, we have the Mercedes looking for Lawrence in the BMW, who, as you said, has been struggling since that little tap on the first corner of the first lap. And actually, it looks like he's going to try and make a move very soon. He's getting right up behind Lawrence there, and it looked like he was maybe looking for the inside, but of course Lawrence very quickly shut that off with the BMW. But Machushka, it's like I said, he's good at attacking. He has shown that so far. He managed to get through Boswell, but I think where he really shines is in his defence. So Boswell may be able to keep up with Machushka here, but I think in terms of getting through, he's going to have to really pull some great moves to try and get through Machushka, because we've seen how good the Mercedes can be on the defence so far.
Well, we were talking earlier about some of the updates. The rain, the way it looks on the camera, is an update. Well, there's been a couple of other updates as well. You may notice that Alexander Borodai's number is lit up, what would you call that? Fuchsia, Tim? It's a very bright color, purple, fuchsia, what have you. And that is because they have the fastest lap of the race. From now on in ACC, whomever has the fastest lap of the race, their number, no matter where they are in the field, will light up in that purplish fuchsia color. And that tells you at home who has the fastest lap. For the first few laps, strangely enough, it was a car right around 12th place. It might have even been Joe Gleason for all I know. But Alexander Borodai got up to speed and has absolutely started to run away to 3.3 seconds in front of Deepers now.
And they are all catching up with Verstappen. Actually, that is the Verstappen in the green car just up ahead that Lawrence has managed to catch up to here. So this is now a train of 4 people all fighting for that podium position right now. And it doesn't look like any of them have quite got a speed advantage on the others to make a move. They're all fairly well paced at the moment. Of course, Verstappen must have had a little bit of a mistake, but it looks like we may have lost the camera. But no, we're back to it. And here is the Mercedes again. They are looking for an overtake on Lawrence as soon as possible. They have managed to catch up across the course of the race so far, and they are basically just looking to find a way through. They're dipping to the inside here. They may be thinking about it soon, but the problem they're going to face is they can't just overtake on the straight. Obviously, the ideal place to do the overtake is right now. Obviously, you get the slipstream coming out the final corner, and then you'd overtake on the straight, but it's just not possible in the BMW. It still manages to reign supreme with straight line speed. So Machushka's got a big task on his hands, and he's going to have to find a move on a corner at some point.
Well, we talked about the changes. Of course, there are changes that affect the GT4 physics as well. So everyone very quickly having to sort of readjust, not completely relearn, but readjust to how their car handles, as I think everything was touched in some way by some of the updates, including the tracks and the physics, etc., and so forth. So it's always a learning process, and these guys, they're first up. You know, on Monday for Porsche Cup 10 Pack, everything was normal. They had 24 hours thereabout to get these cars back under them, and I was talking to some of the Race Ventura Triple R teams, and they were scrambling before this race. It's a tall task.
Yeah, it's a very like hard thing to do, isn't it? Like, once obviously it doesn't change completely, but it's definitely had some significant changes. I've not actually had a chance to try out the update for myself yet, which I was hoping to do yesterday, but unfortunately I didn't have the time to do it. But from what I've heard, the changes are enough to make you feel a bit of a difference in the car, and even that can be just enough to sort of you have to rethink how you approach each lap. Obviously, if you are one of the drivers here that does this so very often, you get into a rhythm.
Oh no!
Oh no, there goes Foch. Actually, it looks like he's had a tap with Stevenson ahead of him, and he's managed to recover. It's not been quite as bad as the crashes we've seen, but he's lost a little bit of grip there going into the final corner, and he will fall back. Foch has not been having a great race so far. I mean, he started out doing all right. It looked like he held it together in the first lap, but ever since, I think he's just been struggling a little bit. Oh, and that looks like Machushka actually might be on his way through the BMW, Jesse Lee.
Yeah, he sure has. Wolf Matushka into Druids, just about got Martin Lawrence with a little bit of contact through the mid part of the corner. Go ahead and give 4th place to Wolf Matushka. And now Jake Boswell has fallen off this group ever so slightly, but Wolf Matushka marching to the front of the field in the Peak Performance 25, trying to keep that championship close to the 123, who I don't think are actually here this week. now that I've seen the running order. I don't think we've even mentioned that to this point, but I don't think FFS Racing is here. But even still, trying to gain points back and maybe take this title fight down to the wire. Well, doing an excellent job with Matushka for peak performance right about now. And in fact, this is the splitter cam of Martin Lawrence, who's now back to 5th place, and now the rear wing cam of Verstappen in the 747 Alpine. And that will be the next step for Matushka getting 3rd.
Matushka is going to be looking to climb as quickly as possible. And look at that speed. I love this camera angle. When you can see it like this, that is the Mercedes just powering down the straight alongside the Alpine here, and it looks like they might have an advantage going to this corner if they can hold it around the outside. They have managed to do so far, but they're now going to the Druid's hairpin. Let's see if he can get through here. The Alpine actually looking to outbrake himself a little bit there, goes a little bit wide in the corner, allowing the Mercedes to tuck in down the inside, but now Verstappen will have the advantage on the inside of this corner as well. It looks like both of the cars are going to be able to hold on track. Verstappen actually pushing Matushka a little bit close to the edge. Oh no! That is contact, and the Alpine has hit the wall. So that would be probably a pit stop for Verstappen. That looked pretty powerful. And is that the BMW? That is Lawrence coming back through as well. And Verstappen is still trying to recover from that spin, but that is a hard situation. It looked like the Alpine was really pressuring the Mercedes off the track there, and I'm not sure if Matushka couldn't find any more room on the track and generally had nowhere else to go, or if maybe he turned in a little bit there on Verstappen by accident, but that is not the outcome you wanted there. Although it looks like, oh no, it doesn't quite. I thought he was about to have some karma there for a second.
I am so, I'm just withdrawn into my chair, and I regret having a very large dinner before this race. I'll tell you that right now. It's playing with me. We're going to take a look at that again. This is Christoph Verstappen in the green Alpine, and that is Wolf Matushka in the pink car. Ooh, I don't know, Tim Peck. What do you think?
It's hard to call, and obviously I'm not sure, so my decision is absolutely not final. Personally there, I'd say Verstappen squeezed Matushka a little bit too much and didn't actually give him any room, and I think Matushka was just trying to stay on the track, really. I don't think he really had any more options of where to go. That being said, obviously, like, Matushka, I guess, must have had a little bit of room to go off, but I think really that is more Verstappen at fault there. But either way, we've got Foch here. They're climbing their way back up through the pack. We saw they had a little bit of an accident a couple of corners ago, but dropped down to 10th. They're already back up to 8th place so far, and it looks like they are making another overtake now, which will put them up yet another position. I believe this is on Schumann just ahead of him. This actually might be Watts having a second look at it. That is Watts, yeah. So Foch is actually, he's looking like he's getting back on his feet a little bit, maybe starting to climb through the positions, and I mean, that's really what he wants right now. Obviously, I believe Fischer is his teammate, and we know how aggressive Fischer can be on the attack, but we will see what Fischer can do once he gets in the car. For now, Foch, though, is doing an amazing job and is looking to actually recover from their earlier struggles.
Well, we're going to take a look at Alexander Bordai. This was your leader of the race. They were running by themselves, and they were having a big crash. This is not Alexander Bordai, by the way. Bordai was the car that was crashed into. This is Will Ryan, who crashed into Bordai, and I believe I'm right in saying that that's how Alexander Bordai has lost the lead in the 112, the back marker into Druids, as is so often the case. Deepers now in the 99 Porsche enjoys a lead, and Bordai's car looked thoroughly crashed.
Bordai, yeah, they've dropped down into second place there, so Deepers now has the advantage, and it'll be interesting to see what Deepers can do with this, really. We've not had a whole lot of experience of seeing what the 99 Porsche can do when they're ahead. Obviously, we've seen them do some amazing performances just below on the podium positions, really. They've had, I believe, a podium or two already this season. They always look quite fighty in that Porsche, especially towards the start of the race, but now we get to see just how they will cope with being in the pole position currently as they lead the Aston Martin. Currently, actually, we're watching the fight for, I believe this is 15th, as Marshall manages to fend off the 727 car. This is your fight for first place in the AM split. currently the BMW getting a much better end of the stick, but the 727 is looking rather fighty, as they have done the past couple of weeks, and it wouldn't surprise me if they got through in a couple of laps' time. They have been very good, especially last week at Spa.
Yes, indeed. Well, for the 99 up front, it's this simple. They have not had a great season so far. They've had one sign out as well, and that's put them near the bottom of the pro list, but it could be an amazing day for Borodai. Not all is lost despite the damage. You come in, you fix it up, knowing that you're just about the fastest car on the track before that, and you still have the fastest lap. You can probably still get a decent enough finish, but that will do nothing to satiate the 112, as they were definitely taken out by a lap car, and that is the most frustrating thing in motorsports, I can promise you that. Meanwhile, this battle for the lead in AM continues, and remember, we saw the 727 all the way up in the top 10 in qualifying, and look now, this is why class racing makes sense. This is why it always seems to come back together. Meanwhile, Schumann in the silver class, leads in the silver class, has put a car between him and Watts for that position. Speaking of, here is what appears to be Schumann, Foch, and Watts all together now.
Oh, and Foch was actually going to go around the outside of the corner there, but doesn't quite make the move so far. He's very close to Schumann ahead, and it looks like he's ready to fight through, and he's going to want to do that as quickly as possible. Of course, he is going to be trying to put the pressure on Stevenson here in the 871 Chevrolet, so he just needs to fight his way through the silver leader currently, but Schumann is not going to make this an easy task. He's also got to worry about what's behind. As you said, for him this is ideal with having Foch between them, but he doesn't want to just let Foch through, because if he lets Foch through, that can put him at a great risk of Watts rather quickly. So we'll probably see Foch actually have to make their way through legitimately and by fighting, although they've got a very good run onto this start-finish straight here. They may actually be able to get this done going into the first corner, although they don't quite have the speed. He's gone for the inside move, and that will be enough, although he's tapped Schumann a little bit and sent him to the side, and that's actually going to allow Watts to come down the inside as well. This is exactly what I said didn't want to happen. But the Porsche 7 has come right through, and coming out of Druid's hairpin, they will be leading the silver split right now. That is not the situation Schumann wants there, and I'm wondering if maybe it actually would have been better for him to just let Foch through on that first corner there and avoided the contact. Of course, it wasn't his fault, but these things are better prevented than just trying to fight it once it's happened.
Ian Marshall leading in the AM class for PSR in the 417 BMW finds himself in traffic. Everybody fighting the same fight here today. And Denise Pope, who is driving the 79 again, the Wild Things Racing team. We remarked a week ago how good the Ginetta was. It was always going to be a matter of how good is the Ginetta here. Pretty decent, I would say. Looks a bit racy here for what would be the 5th place position in silver.
The Ginettas, we say this every week, they just look so racy. All the drivers have done so well in them so far, and Pope in particular has been one of them to really utilise the effects of the Ginetta. Of course, it is a right-hand driven car compared to all of the other cars here currently, which are all driven on the left-hand side, so there's a bit of a skill that goes into it, and the 79 has certainly done an amazing job. They are looking very racy actually, with a BMW ahead, which is not something you usually think you'd say. You don't often see a Ginetta really challenging a BMW, especially on a track with a couple of long straights which the BMW can really push away on, but we can see what Pope does here. It looks like they may be able to get through soon. The BMW is really struggling on those curves, and we know that Blanco looked very unsettled in that car earlier, and it looks like they may be starting to struggle again there, but so far it's been, I'd say, a rather exciting race. Borodai, though, is dropping back in the lead to Deepers. So Deepers in the 99, it's just really, they've got through now. They're just putting out some good laps. Borodai may have a little bit of damage there that is stopping them, but that by no means is a good enough sort of reason for him to just drop back so far. It depends how bad the damage is. Looking at the fight now, though, for the podium position, Boswell has actually, I believe, just been taken by the Chevrolet. No, that was Lawrence that just got through Boswell, and it looks like he's trying to find his way back through. anytime soon now. Machushka is just ahead of him. You can see in the pink Mercedes there, he's got a little bit of distance then, but Boswell here currently trying to look for his way through the BMW, and they're coming onto a couple of straights now, so the BMW is going to have a huge advantage. And we saw earlier that no matter what you do, no matter how good of an exit you get onto this start finish straight, the BMW will just soar away, and that is what you're about to witness right here. That is the power of the GT4 BMW as it stands.
Very close stuff. I always felt like a superhero in a BMW down a straightaway, and I think you're seeing a lot of that here. Jake Boswell, for all the early trouble that they've had, they've maintained resolute here inside the top 5, and it's no wonder why. Samir is going to get around as Stevenson is off in the Paddock Hill bend, and that gave up 2 spots there. Meanwhile, the battle for the pro lead has sort of quieted down for the time being. Samir Foch here now in 6th place, looking to take a place away. And actually, no, excuse me, Foch is the one leading Watts here. Watts is the one attempting to take a place away. And first, the cars there. Meanwhile, up front, Deeper still leads in the 99 over Borodai with the damage. You expect the 112 to have some sort of damage, and in fact has fallen 2 3/4 seconds adrift. Meanwhile, in the pack, the fighting continues. Tobias Sontag, we right on board his number 3, Aston, as he is trying to get by the 727 here. And of course, I think that's Marshall up in front and as they're all in a line. This is for the top 15. The 2 in front of him, if you're Sontag, Tim, you got to play this very patient, because the 2 in front of you are racing for the lead in their class. And even though you're in a class technically above them, you still got to respect their battle.
You do absolutely have to respect their battle, and I mean, to be perfectly honest, if they're ahead of you, they are ahead of you for a reason. That will be on their own merit. So Sontag does have to play very patient here. Of course, he can't just do a reckless move and expect them to move out of the way, because they absolutely won't be doing that. But speaking about moves right now, Stevenson actually looks like he's looking to get around the edge of Schumann. We saw him fall back a lap ago, and it looks like he's eager to push his way back through the silvers quickly so that he can get back into the fight with Foch, but he's not quite going to have it through the first and second corner there behind Schumann, still coming out of the hairpin. He just doesn't have the speed, it looks like, to get past it. For a second I thought he'd have it easy on the straight, as Schumann's actually gone off here. But again, it's not going to be enough for the Chevrolet to come through. It all feels like we just keep coming back to the same thing of the Chevrolet. No matter how good it looked last season, it still only looks average at best this season right now. And it doesn't look like it's really got anything to it. I mean, you were saying earlier, the Aston Martin in a straight line isn't really the best car by any means, but the Chevrolet, it didn't look like it had the pace to get by the Aston Martin there.
Well, here is Ganir Wormiski in the 727 now, continuing to try and get the lead back from Ian Marshall. These two going at it, and of course, Sontag here, you got to give credit to Tobias. Oh no, Marshall's going to lose it. Ganir Wormiski is going to look to the inside. That will be the outside, but doesn't have enough of a run on the BMW. The BMW, one of the best weapons in the straight line. I just think the straightaway saved Ian Marshall there.
That was a very close call and could have been the end of the race for any of those 3 drivers there. So Marshall's going to be very happy to hold on to the lead through this. The 727 has been following Marshall now for an awfully long time, and I'm sure they're looking to get through as well. Although Marshall at one point must have got through, because they absolutely did not start ahead of that 727. And of course, the 727 starts, I believe, in 8th place. So as you were saying, it goes to show how qualifying pace and race pace can differ, but it looks like the 727 is actually ready to make the move right now. They're almost alongside Marshall. We know how powerful that BMW is in the straights compared to the Aston Martin. It looks like it's just going to be able to get ahead before the final corner yet again, but the 727 is handling these corners perfectly, and there's a long straight to come, but then a couple of really tight corners, so it's not over for the 727 yet. Sontag behind, we were saying he doesn't want to make a reckless move. He's going to start making moves. Polanco in the BMW behind him has also managed to catch up, and it looks like there may have been contact there, and he's now found his way through as well. So Polanco's actually fought his way through the Aston Martin ahead of him, and that is why, although Sontag wants to be cautious, he can't be too cautious, because he still had pressure from behind Jesse Lee.
Oh my goodness, Polanco still looks unsettled. Had that position for the moment. Will they be able to keep it here? I think they will, and only just. Polanco, who probably feels like they shouldn't be back here to begin with, we'll say thank you very much. At least for that position, Sontag went for a move, tried to be respectful, pinned it to the inside of Paddock Hill. It couldn't stick. It didn't stick. How many times have we seen that today? I don't think it's the last. Sontag loses out, loses a position or two. Actually, only loses the one position, but now finds himself the caboose on a train. And by the way, Phil Roberts now, because of how slow this train is moving, Phil Roberts is catching up. He was several seconds adrift, and he's almost in the back of him now. Oh my goodness, that couldn't have been a legal turn. Completely off the track there.
I mean, that did look fairly questionable, but looking back at this fight for the AM lead, Marshall and the 727 are absolutely going for it. Right now, that 727 has been eager to get through for so many laps, and they've been really fighting Marshall here, but Marshall's managing to hold on. All he has to do in theory is keep getting to this straight ahead or close enough to that 727 to make the switch back, and that's all he's been doing so far. So as long as he can make it to the straight, the top speed will do the rest. But here comes Polanco down the inside of both the arms there. It looks like he's going to do a double overtake of both of them, and the 727 has gone wide. It looks like Sontag's going to find his way through as well. He's only got Marshall to clear now in the arms, but that is Polanco doing a double overtake. Oh no, he's gone off the track now. He's not managed to find that next corner, and that's going to be Marshall ahead. Polanco's going to have to slot back into where he originally was, back down, and I believe that's 17th there, but Roberts, one of the only ones to be able to keep it together completely through those corners, is going to be very happy with how that turned out. He's going to get a couple of positions there for free, and Sontag as well is going to be able to climb up as well. Oh, for the 727, that is not what you want to happen. I mean, you get absolutely dive bombed going into the first corner and all the way through. Oh no! There goes Roberts as well. It looks like there might be a slight tap there, so a lot of chaos has just happened in the middle of this pack for all of these cars so far. That is not the situation any of them were expecting to happen.
Well, you could see it coming, Tim, couldn't you? I mean, there's only so many cars that you can fit under a blanket before it all goes a bit pear-shaped, and I think that's exactly what you saw right there. And Jake Boswell now looking like they're a little bit on the attack of Martin Lawrence in fourth place. So battle for fourth place brewing. Meanwhile, Wolf Petushka in third place, trying to catch up to Borodai now. Still 4 seconds or so off, but he has 46 minutes. There is time to do that. Of course, everybody here must take a pit stop. The pit stop requirement is that you change driver. There is no tire or fuel requirement in the GT4 season this season. So all you have to do is change the driver to satisfy that. We know that Tom Bryan, who I believe is out of this race now, did not finish and was going to be driving alone. Well, fortunately, or unfortunately rather, they're out very early after several incidents, and the car deemed uncontrollable. So the one car out of the race and everybody else still in it. Only a couple of cars have pitted. The 747 has Nyring on board now, and they've pitted. The 96 has pitted in McRae on board that car as well. And Jake Boswell here is going to easy peasy lemon squeezy get by Martin Lawrence. If every pass was like that, racing would be easy.
Racing would be easy indeed. I'm wondering about these pit stops, actually. I think they will have to pit again, because I believe the driver's stint timer is 45 minutes, which means the pit window technically isn't actually open yet. Of course, we've got 9 seconds to go until you can make your first pit stop and still be within the driver's stint limit there. So I think maybe the Alpine 747 and the Mercedes 96 that are both towards the back there may have had to pit earlier for some damage, which is why it's ticked off the pit stop there. They must have switched driver at the same time, but I imagine at some point they will have to go back into the pits and switch drivers back around if they don't want to land a penalty for themselves here. But we'll see how that all turns out. I imagine they've thought this through and they are ready for it, but Sontag actually, still a bit of grip there going down the corner, and originally was putting a lot of pressure on the two AMs ahead. Now, not falling back completely, but certainly isn't putting the same amount of pressure on Marshall as he was when Marshall was fighting the 727 Aston Martin.
A couple of things. I don't see a pit window for this race. I don't know if that's a UI update that I'm unaware of, or if maybe it doesn't transfer. I'm unsure. But one way or another, there is usually a pit window. Something else I noticed too, it's 7:41 p.m. here, and the sun is getting really low. Of course, this race is set somewhere in the summer, and the sun getting really low, and that has to be pretty detrimental whenever you're facing it at this point. It's only going to get worse.
Yeah, it's certainly not the situation you want to be if you're driving in right now. The sun getting low does mean that you're not going to have an overly great amount of vision going through a lot of these corners here. Of course, that sun being low does mean that you'll be blinded every time you come to face it, but I'm sure they will be able to manage, although we've seen a couple of them go a bit wide on the corner so far, so maybe that will be a big factor that actually comes into who comes out on top in this race so far.
Just a correction from my previous statement, there isn't a stint limit here, just a maximum 45-minute drive time like Tim Peck told you, so I do apologize. There's a reason I don't see it, Tim Peck, and that's because it doesn't exist. There is no pit window. There is only a driver max drive time, which is 45 minutes.
Yeah, I think we were talking about in a previous race, we were trying to do the math, as I know you love to do, as to when the best place is to do that pit stop, and we worked out because it's, of course, an 80-minute race. You want to really do it around the 40-minute mark, which is where a lot of the drivers are doing now. We've actually seen a couple of the drivers have already started to come into the pits. I think the 79 is just coming out of the pit lane now, it seems, but what we've seen in previous races is a lot of these drivers really opt in to leaving it right up until that 35-minute mark, and then they basically pit at the last possible second. So I guess it just depends who's comfortable at what points in the car, and just who wants to drive for a bit longer, really. I mean, I imagine it's a situation of whoever's in the car, the teammate says you pit when you fancy it, and then they just come in once they want to call it a day. So we'll see. We don't think there's an overly huge amount of strategy here. We've seen, I think at Alton Park is the main one we saw for a bit of an undercut going on, where cars were pitting early and then just putting out some great laps, and it did work slightly, although those of you that were there at Alton Park will remember the very spectacular ending where the 727, not 727, the 123, I think, McLaren managed to just pour their way through the positions in the last few minutes of the race. So it's certainly possible, and I imagine even though you don't have to change your tyres or fuel, a lot of these cars probably are doing that right now.
I'm going to correct myself for a third time. What I meant to say is there is no stint limit. There is no, excuse me. I'm going to try to get this right.
You've got this.
It's been a long day, folks, for me. You're going to have to stay with me. There is a driver stint limit of 45 minutes. There is no max drive time, and there is no pit limit. That's what I thought in my head, but that's definitely not what I said. I told you it's a holiday here. I've been a bit loose, so I do apologize for that. But yeah, there is no drive time limit. There is no pit window. Just a maximum stint limit of 45 minutes.
We can forgive you, of course. You just mentioned it is Thanksgiving at the moment, so you have all the reason to celebrate.
I'm celebrating early.
Yeah, Watts here looks like he's about to start celebrating early as well. He's actually put 1.5 seconds on Schumann behind it. He's looking very comfortable at the top of the silver pack currently, and to be perfectly honest, he's mixed in quite well with the rest of the pro pack. They're currently running 6th, is the silver leader in the Porsche, number 7 so far. Of course, we saw that overtake happen a little bit earlier on where Watts did a move on Schumann to get through when they were in a pack with a bunch of the other pro cars, but very happy with how his race is going. Will be the number 7 Porsche, and honestly it looks like he's not taking massive chunks of time out of Schumann right now, but ever so slightly each lap he's just extending his lead by a couple of tenths, and that's all he really needs to do for the rest of his stint.
Yeah, you don't need to gain leaps and bounds to win the race. You just got to be marginally better throughout the duration, and that is exactly what Elliott Watts is doing for Redline right now. This could be a great day for the 7 if they keep this up. Well, pit stops have started on the dot, Tim Peck. You said 40 minutes was the sweet spot. You're absolutely right. The first opportunity under the 40-minute mark, all the leaders are in. Jake Boswell goes through to take the lead. Martin Lawrence doesn't pit. They will lead. Deepers, Borodai, Matushka, Watts, and now Benjamin Schumann for the Temporal Name Motorsport team is in. Nearly everybody up front coming in. Now, what does Boswell and Lawrence gain by not pitting here?
I was about to say, I'm not sure how much that was strategy, but I am wondering if what happened there was they saw Deepers pull into the pit and just went, okay, let's minimize any chance of anything happening on the outlaps here. Let's all just pit at the exact same time and let the pit stop decide the fate of who comes out where. And it looks like most of them will actually be coming back out in the correct order so far. They're all leaving the pits as we speak. Right now, the 99 is still in the lead. The 112 is still currently in the second place, and the number 25 Mercedes will still be in their respective third place. Of course, that is not the position showing right now, but those are the only cars to pit. Back to your question though, on Boswell and Lawrence and what they have to do. They basically just have to put out some really, really fast laps here, and that's all they can do, really. I mean, they don't look like they're in a whole lot of traffic if I look at the mini-map quickly, so that should benefit them a lot. And oh, actually, speaking of fights going on right now, that is Nyring in the Alpine just did a little bit of a send there down De Bont in the Chevrolet, who still hasn't pitted yet. So the Alpine clearly isn't struggling at this track. I mean, they're definitely doing a fairly good job at that. I was about to ask why they were so far back, because I believe that's Verstappen's teammate, and I just remember the little incident that happened in that corner a couple of laps earlier. But they are looking fairly comfortable at coming back through, it seems. And looking at fairly comfortable, Schwenschik now looks like he's going down the inside of the number 30 Aston Martin. He seems to have made that move look extremely easy as well. What is it with these second drivers just making these moves look ever so easy?
Well, it sure can. I mean, you get a fresh driver in there, they're not frustrated with the start. Maybe you get a little bit of repair on the car, change some things with tire pressure because you know what worked and didn't work, and then all of a sudden you're off to the races. That's what racing is about. By the way, I'm pretty sure Svinchek was in our chat earlier complaining about the very same, the tires.
Yeah, I think the tyres are definitely... we've seen them play a part in this race so far. I mean, we saw... who was it? Polanco was sliding about on a lot of the corners, and I'm wondering if that was about the tyres. We saw, obviously, as well, you were talking about a lot of the cars were struggling to find the corners and going a little bit wide there, which I think would have only been heating up those tyres a little bit too much, maybe putting a bit too much pressure into them as well. And once that happens, we were saying it's really hard to just fight it back down, especially if you are in the centre of a race. So I imagine a tyre change is going to make a whole lot of difference for just about everyone on the track right now. As soon as you get those fresh tyres on, you're going to have a much better just sort of feel of the car, and it's just going to feel a lot better, I think, Jesse.
Carlos Kaladian now in the number 30, pit stop done, inside the top 10. Vasiliev in the 112 finds themselves still behind the 99, but I think the 112 had quite a slow pit stop. I'd be curious to see if the 99 Porsche had that as well, as Carlos Kaladian goes off the track in the 30 there. Common theme for the day, to say the least. Jake Boswell in the pit lane, Martin Lawrence and Watt all in pit lane. The only car that hasn't pitted is the ball, which means one of two things, Tim Peck. Either they're racing without a teammate today, or they are having some sort of very long strategy call here. And that was Anderson, I'm pretty sure, in the 7, the leader in silver, who just went off the track. And in fact, it was Trevor Anderson on one of his first laps. He goes off the track and now surrenders the lead to Carlos Kaladian in the 30 now. Lead change again in silver.
This silver fight has been absolutely amazing from the beginning. I was actually just looking at the number 16 of De Bont to wonder if he did have a teammate he was willing to switch in at the end of that, but it doesn't look like he was actually going to make it to the pits in time. So I'm thinking it's right, he just doesn't have that teammate, or there's a bit of a odd call going on there right now. But either way, it looked like Anderson was ready to actually strike his position back very quickly there. It looked like he made a little bit of a dive going through the Druids hairpin, but not managing to find anything of it. Currently has Anderson not on the Aston Martin number 30 right now, but he's definitely sticking to the back of that car, and it looks like now he might have the better end of it on the straight. It looks like he's got a lot better run up, and he's starting to come just alongside now, but the corner is going to reach them before he manages to get through. And I think his real next striking opportunity will be the start-finish straight, as long as he can make it there. It's still this close to the number 30 ahead of him.
Well, of course, Anderson, we know that 7 car has the speed to lead in silver. Well, does it have the stability? That is the very big question. By the way, happy moments here. We've made it past the halfway point in the race now, which means all of the drivers and teams' efforts to this point will be rewarded with some sort of points. We will not need to eliminate a round of this championship. Happy days indeed.
I'm sure everyone's going to breathe a fresh sigh of relief for that. You will be getting at least some points, and as well, we don't have to miss out on this race entirely. We made it through the halfway mark, which means you've got, I'd say, the best part of sort of 50 minutes racing so far, which is definitely enough, I think. But a lot of them will be hoping that they can get in the last half an hour as well, and I'm certainly hoping they can too, because this has been ever so exciting so far. Everyone, of course, has now made their pit stop, so this is the current order of the teams as it stands. The 99 Porsche is still in first place, closely followed by the 112 Aston Martin. I say closely followed, but that 6-second gap is certainly not closely followed. So I think they had a bit of repairing to do maybe there in the pits that would have put them down a little bit on the 99 ahead. And of course, the Mercedes 25, originally driven by Machushka, has now swapped with Vit to put them in the podium position, but they will be looking to extend this as far as they can. They've got a 1.9 second lead currently on Daly, which they're just hoping to get ever so big across these laps, because once Daly catches up, he is going to be looking to fight his way through that Mercedes. That's if he does catch up here.
Billy Octane wants to have something to say about that. Octane would like to get around Jordan Daly as quickly as possible here. But of course, Daly, an excellent driver in his own right. It's going to be an excellent fight. Now, these two are very familiar with each other, we'll just say, and they wouldn't want to take each other out. That would be a very long discussion into the night. I know they hang out off of the track as well, so no friendship enders here, guys. Going back to the pit stops, you talked about Vasiliev in the 1112 team. You're absolutely right. They had a slow pit stop. They were certainly fixing some of that damage that they sustained in Druids with that lap car. Phil Vitt, you may remember, he was driving the Pink Performance 25 when Wolf Matushka, his teammate, was in that car. They had a couple of contacts as well. They still had a quicker stop than Vasiliev did, but they didn't gain nearly as much. Jorgensen, who's in the 99 Porsche now, leading this race, had the quickest stop of the three, clearly on the board. Nearly doubled, actually nearly tripled, matter of fact, the gap that they had. It was around 2 seconds when the pit stop cycle started, nearly 7 seconds now. And by the way, Phil Vitt is catching second place.
He is doing a great job so far, and he's absolutely going to hope he can catch up to second place to give us a bit of action in the final part of this race here. It would be absolutely brilliant to see a fight for second here. Speaking of fight, so this is Pimlott currently catching up with Hutchkins ahead. Of course, this is a pro on a silver, so for the grand scheme of positions, this isn't going to matter too much for either of their championships. It's just if Pimlott can get through Hutchins here, he can try and catch up to the 747 ahead, although having said that, that is a 15-second gap, so that would be very ambitious for Pimlott to close that gap. But we have seen stranger things happen, of course. That was about the same size of the gap that we saw last week at Spa. That was closed very quickly, and we actually saw on the final lap there was only about 2 seconds by the end of it. So it's certainly possible to close that much time. We'll see how Pimlott can do, but the first step for him here is to find his way through Hutchkins in the number 4 BMW.
Speaking of which, I think Hutchinson doing the discretion is the better part of valor technique there, letting Neil Pimlott by the Conchabons A team through. A very excellent move. You love to see it. He's not required to do that, by the way, if you're new here. Of course, if you're on the same lap, you're allowed to race, but I think Pimlott just having a little bit more pace. Hutchinson knowing that they're in a podium place for silver, doesn't want to jinx it. I've seen so many competitors go out today trying to race each other unnecessarily. Does the smart thing. Speaking of which, a big old dive by Van Aken there, nearly losing a position to the 79. That's Pixley now in the 79 Ginetta, the Wild Things Racing Ginetta. And of course, I don't know who that is in the Chevrolet. That's DeBont still, who's still out there. And that was a heck of a slide move to put in there. But hey, it got him by him. And also, Pixley now going back to work on Van Aken.
Van Aken just powered their way through around the hairpin there, and Pixie closely followed. Pixie now looking actually to get through that Alpine on this corner, not quite going to be able to find any position yet, but they are very hot on the toes of the 320 head. Pixie did an amazing job of just following through as closely as possible there, and they managed to also get through the Chevrolet. I'm wondering, that Chevrolet probably doesn't have to pit. I mean, we've gathered they've missed the stint window now to pit in order to not get the penalty for the driver stint, but I'm wondering, is it worth just pitting anyway to put on some fresh tyres, because they're starting to struggle on that set. We can see them sliding around, and I'm wondering if it's worth pitting just to get some fresh tyres on, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, I think, that you're posing there. It's hard to tell what's going through these drivers, especially when you're driving without a teammate. I think a lot of them this season have tried to go without pitting, and I think that might be what Devon's doing. But it's a good question to ask. Is it more advantageous just to pit, put new tires on the car, and see what you can do? By the way, Jordan Daly has been passed by Billy Octane, but Billy Octane getting off the track here. They're going to be side by side around the outside. Jordan Daly, who taught him that move? The Triple R Academy Tryhards team. He's going to do it. Jordan Daly back through Billy Octane, and now Billy Octane has to do all of that again.
I think we might have to see if he can do it here. The BMW, you can see the speed of it down the main straight right now. He's already again neck and neck with Daly as we speak, and he too is going to fancy his chances around the outside there. He's of course doing it on the first corner, and again there's a little tap just before they go into the Druids hairpin here. Daly's still ahead of Octane. He's managed to hold it together, and we've not had a lot of opportunities here today to say the Aston Martin has outmaneuvered the BMW, but that was how it is done. Daly showing us the move around the outside there and how he made it stick even down the straight where the BMW has such a huge advantage. He has managed to put himself back up into fourth there. Jesse Lee, what a brilliant bit of racing that was.
Yeah, you can find that on a how-to race guide right there. I know there's a little bit of contact coming up in Druids, but that's fine. That's just two mates racing each other. Like I said, they're friends off of the track, so that's not something they're worried about. Billy Octane playing cat and mouse with Daly, and you saw that. Octane just went a little bit wide. Didn't wreck, didn't even really get out of sorts, did he, in the BMW? Just lost a little bit of traction and a little bit of speed. Jordan Daly probably had a grin on his face, said, "Thank you very much, I'll take that back."
It just goes to show the experience that both drivers have as well. I mean, Daly, he saw that opportunity to start, and not a lot of drivers, I think, would have gone for that move on the outside there in the first place, but he just made it look like it was second nature to him. It stuck so nicely. The car very gracefully, I'd say, went around that corner. It didn't look too fighty, but here comes the BMW yet again on the straight, on the Aston Martin ahead of him. Still not going to have quite enough straight to be able to come through, but this time he's gone for the switchback on the corner. He has switched to the inside and now is going to power on down this straight, going into the hairpin. This time the BMW will have the advantage, and it doesn't look like Daly can do too much to answer back right now. He's got a couple of corners to just try and say something here, really. He's looking for the inside, it seems, but Octane is going to shut that off very quickly, but they are very close to each other right now. Octane here is currently driving around. This is the view from Fisher, really far back, but we're going to cut back to see it from up close now. But here is Daly. He's got a great move down here on the inside, and it looks like he's actually got very good acceleration to the straight. It's not going to be enough. We know how fast that BMW is, but it all goes towards helping Daly just try and find a good position now on Billy Octane ahead. And I think this is the camera angle our broadcaster was looking for here. The front view of Daly, we can see Octane's car so clearly. You can make out every bit of detail on the rear of that BMW right now, and this is what Daly can almost see. It's a little bit closer, but there goes the BMW. It looks like he's sliding again, and this is another opportunity for Daly to maybe make a move around the outside. He's not going to go for it this time.
He's doing it again!
Onto the inside. Octane has slid a little bit going through the corner, but Daly can't manage to catch up this time. He's got another corner to maybe try and dip to the inside, get a better exit. It looks like he's going to try and do just that, but again, the BMW will have the advantage on the straight despite all of the sliding. Although the Aston Martin, it looks like it might be able to do something right now, Jesse Lee.
Well, I gotta tell you, these are two boys having a lot of fun. I know it looks like they're racing each other very vicious, but I mean, even two puppies playing look like they're fighting each other, don't they? These two guys that love doing what they do, sim racing, and they're going at it here. Daly doesn't want to lose to Octane. Octane doesn't want to lose to Daly, and they're going at it. But I guarantee you, there are grins on the faces. Some cheeky moves there, no punches pulled, but an excellent fight and a mostly clean one too. There was that one door-to-door contact, not a big deal, but beyond that, very good racing. And of course, Daly, the more he keeps the pressure up on Octane, the more Octane's probably going to overdrive the car. Now it's going to be a drag race here. The BMW should start to pull away right about here. It's really close, side drafting each other, going into the right-hander, and of course, the inside will have the preferred line, but looking all the time is Daly continuing to hound Billy Octane, continuing to lose time. It was within a few seconds. It's nearly 10 now to third place Phil Vitt. Both of these cars probably ruining their chance of finishing on the podium today, but neither one of them care.
I mean, if you're getting the racing that these two are managing to get right now, I don't think you'd care either. This has been such an exciting race. And as you said, there has been a little bit of tapping between the two of them, but I don't think anything particularly aggressive happened there. I mean, it just looked like a bit of a love tap really between them as they slightly nudged each other. None of them really slid around or spun out, but what a fight it has been for both Daly and Octane there. And Fisher now is actually looking like he wants to join in as he starts to close in on the two cars ahead. Sadly, Daly has dropped back on Octane a little bit now. He's about 9/10 of a second behind, and that was, for those of you that saw it, he did try and take one of those corners a little bit too tightly and picking up a lot of dirt, which then meant he was way too tight for the corner afterwards as well. So not an ideal situation for Daly, but certainly do not count him out yet, as he's already trying to close back on Octane now, and it looks like Fisher may be the next to try and join the fight for fourth place.
Well, take a breather, Tim Peck. Pixley here trying to get by Van Aken again. I think Joe Gleason was in with a earlier note that they were trying to get by the Chevrolet, and it may have went all a bit wrong for the 320 Alpine, but still very nice fourth place position. And of course now they are under threat from fifth place there. The Ginetta trying to come through. And oh, by the way, Phil Vitt in third place has just about caught Vasiliev in second place. I don't think anyone has the time to catch Jorgensen now in the 99 Porsche. I think that they're going to put a win in all the columns today. But for Phil Vitt, after that one disastrous race that he had early in the season, race one, as a matter of fact, after Wolf Matuszka drove that car to the pole in the lead of that race, Phil Vitt had a very nasty second half of the race, a race that he would like to forget. He has done nothing but make up for that. 2 or 3 incredible runs in the 25, including here today, could see him getting second place again. An excellent run by Matuszka and Vitt. And by the way, there it is. There is nothing left in it, as the Alpine will eject themselves from the racetrack after they notice that second and third were right there. I know some drivers will tell you that's too much, Tim Peck, right? To go off the track, it's unsettling. But for me, I prefer to do that simply because if you crash, I don't want anything to do with it.
You definitely don't want anything to do with this fight as well. Vitt on Vasiliev is going to be, I reckon, very exciting, as Vitt is still closing in now. We will see just what he can do on the aggression. So I agree. I think if I was that Alpine, I might have dipped out that far as well. I think definitely the safest option here. But that Mercedes, I mean, we looked at it, we said coming out of the pits, they were already beginning to catch up on the car ahead, and he has managed to catch up. But looking down now at the fight for first place in AM, this is Wisniewski coming on De Bont, who still hasn't pitted yet, and it looks like they're continuing to struggle their tyres further. So the 727, previously looking to find their way through the Chevrolet, will now actually manage to get it done. They're returning to first place in AM right now, which will definitely put a smile on their face. And now going back to the photo we were originally talking about, which is really exciting, here's Daly going on Octane, going on Fisher, and now we're going to look again at the battle of Vitt versus Vasiliev. So there's so much action happening right now, and well, the Mercedes is looking awfully feisty on this Aston Martin, isn't it, Jesse Lee?
I just got something to say, and of course, this particular stream is not brought to you by Kunos or Assetto Corsa in any specific way. This is not a hashtag ad, but if you don't have the GT4 DLC, first of all, what are you doing with your life? Number 2, it's on sale right now for Black Friday on Steam. Get you some of that. This is excellent action, and we'd love to see you in the upcoming GT4 Championship. This is all it's been for the last 2 seasons, Tim Peck, is incredible battles like this. Christian's camera buttons are going to fall off with action like this. Jordan Daly back in front of Octane. Octane now in 4th or 5th place, and now that's Garrett Fisher, if you see, the 878 Aston, the Gulf-colored car. And they're all together now, all fighting over 4th place, and that's not what they wanted to happen. Now, of course, I don't think any of these cars can catch up to 3rd now, but what the fighting between Daly and Octane did is it brought Garrett Fisher back into this.
And Fisher is already looking to find his way through Octane as we speak. Oh, they're getting very close to each other here, and we're going to look at the front view of Fisher's car. And sadly, I don't think he's going to have enough power for himself there on the straight to get through the BMW. We've seen just how fast it can be on the straight throughout the entirety of this race, but Daly's made it work in the Aston Martin, so Fisher is going to try and follow in his footsteps. He's already looking for the inside of the hairpin right now, but Octane is going to close that gap very, very quickly. And he's going to do it again in the subsequential corners as well. It just looks like Octane, I'm not sure what happened with Daly there, maybe a little bit of a slip up. We've seen him sliding around a little bit, but he already looks very tuned in straight away and very good on the defense against Fisher. So I think Fisher, if he wants to make this move, is going to have to make it happen. Speaking of making it happen, is this Vit's chance to get through Vasiliev for P2? It looks like he's going to try and dip to the inside for the next straight here, and it doesn't look like he's quite got the power. There may have been a slight tap there as well, but Vit not managing to make his way through there is certainly looking to get his way through soon.
Well, we had Wolf Matushka, Phil Vitt's teammate, in our chat earlier mentioning that they were sorry for the incident with Stevenson, I believe it was, but I'm curious if they feel that that was their fault at peak performance or not. I don't know. I don't know if that was them admitting that that was their bad or just saying that it was unfortunate and they're sorry that it happened, but one way or another, you can't take that back. And of course, that will be dealt with post-race. That has nothing to do with the result today. So we'll have to see in a week's time what the post-race stewarding said about that particular incident. But for right now, it's a fight for 2nd place, and Phil Vitt trying to go the long way around Paddock Hill and ran out of time and found themselves a nice comfy beach, but thought better of it. Anderson, by the way, in the 7th, talking about live stewarding, there is none, right? So that drive-through for Anderson, that is an ACC assigned track limits penalty for exceeding track limits one too many times. So that car will come down pit lane and serve that. And will that be enough to drop him out of 2nd in silver? I don't think it will be. Meanwhile, the fight for 4th place still on. Daly, Octane, and Fisher in your picture right here.
And we'll see if Fisher is able to find his way through, and if Octane is actually able to find his way through. Daly certainly not out the picture yet. All 3 of these drivers are fighting for 4th place currently, and I'm sure all 3 of those drivers would love to be the one to be in 4th place. Of course, you were saying earlier that all this fighting has caused them to actually lose sight of 3rd place ahead, and that is still the case as they're just dropping back further and further each lap. And I don't think you can even fault any of them in terms of their pace. Their pace has been brilliant, but as you said, they've just been fighting so hard with each other that it's really hard to put in the lap times you need to catch up when you're trying so hard to defend from the car behind.
Well, keep in mind, Garrett Fisher, that's Samir Fosh's teammate. Fosh had a nightmare of a start of that stint and went into damage control mode. They were, I think, outside the top 10 at one point, so this would be epic. Could you imagine coming from 10th with your teammate and then getting all the way back up to 4th potentially? What an excellent recovery by the 878 team. Trying to go around the outside is Garrett Fisher. He's going to do the same thing as we saw Phil Vitt do, just running out of room, hitting the beach. They'll have to hit the reset button on that plan. That didn't work.
He will have to hit the reset button on that plan, but not for very long, because Octane is once again going to be coming up to Daly, so we will see this sort of occurrence repeat itself. They'll begin to fight, and Fisher will have a chance to catch back up and then start making his moves again. So although it's definitely not ideal to fall back, it is absolutely not the end of the world here. Daly looks like he took that corner a little bit too wide, giving Octane a chance to catch up. And again, I've said it a lot, but the BMW is very fast in the straights. That's certainly not the place you want to go wide there, as it looks like the BMW is going to try and go for a move on the Aston Martin here, not going to be able to find it. We've seen so many times cars have been pushed to the outside in that corner, and it's not where you want to be. It may look like a great overtake is about to happen, but it certainly hasn't presented this opportunity yet. Although, if someone's going to do it, it could certainly be Octane. I mean, Daly made it work on the outside of a different corner earlier on, so taking on the outside is certainly possible here. And we've seen our fair share of great overtakes. Actually, Octane's gone a little bit too wide then. That's certainly going to help Daly.
These two are going at each other. It's more than just a race to these two. It is bragging rights between Daly and Octane. They will inevitably this evening have a conversation about the outcome of this race. And boys, if you're listening right now, if your teammates listening right now, give me 3 minutes to pop some popcorn to get in there.
Yeah, you definitely want to have some sort of snack on you for the final 13 minutes of this race. All of these cars are in these little groups where they're all fighting for different positions. Here are the two BMWs in AM currently fighting out. Obviously, Marshall's also in a BMW earlier. I think he actually might be one of these BMWs. He fell back from first position after having a little bit of a incident. But here we go with the two BMWs fighting out for each other. I believe that's the... No, that's the blue flag. Never mind. I was getting very excited there, thinking that the Alpine had found some sort of hidden speed, but that was just a blue flag rather than the Alpine itself. But the BMWs certainly haven't dropped off each other too much. We'll see what happens here. Both of these drivers will want to have as many points as possible. As I was saying when we were looking at the standings, they're very close in the championship right now.
Andy Howard off the track for PSR, and that's going to do nothing but help Rod Meir catch back up, and in fact has done. The Aston goes through, so all copacetic there, but the battle back on between Howard and Meir. Keep in mind, this may be for 20th place. They don't care about that. This is for third in AM. Somebody in AM today is going to finish off the podium of the cars that are left running. Of course, we started with more than 4 AM cars. We've lost at least one of them today. I think it was the 96, after a couple of collisions, has pulled the garage door down, and this is for third. So somebody here is going to be odd man out, I'm afraid.
And here comes Octane. That's yet another straight down for the BMW, and that's where he has the real advantage. The Aston Martin has certainly done a better job of taking the corners so far, so that's where Daly's strengths are, and Octane will be looking to capitalise really on the straights. He's got another huge one coming here. We've seen him try and make a couple of moves so far, but as we know, Daly just has to duck to the inside, and that looks like it will be good enough for a defence when they come up to this next corner. Fisher, we were saying he has an opportunity to catch back up with these two cars fighting, and already you can see him at the back of this fight here, so he's managed to catch up fairly quickly. Now looking to, this is the leader of silver, so the number 30 Aston Martin, they've given themselves a lovely gap to Anderson in the number 7 Porsche behind, so they absolutely do not have to worry about their class race right now. But what they do have to look towards is the race with the pro Schwenschik in the Chevrolet. Looks like actually the Aston Martin is trying to get through at some point here, so they absolutely none of these cars have to yield. There's no rule of, oh, the silver has to let the pro through or the pro has to let the silver through. They can batter that out, so I think we might see some fighting because they're both in a fairly big gap with each other. There's no reason not to fight, just, you know, spice things up a little bit for them.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what else I was looking at other than the battle for second place in the race and in the pro class. I was just kind of laughing to myself. Daly and Octane stopped battling each other. Garrett Fisher fell back nearly 2 seconds, and they stopped hemorrhaging time to this man, Phil Vitt, all at the same time. Imagine that, boys. When you don't spend every corner side by side, you end up making up a little bit of time. Daly's not making up time on Phil Vitt, mind you, but he's not hemorrhaging time either. That gap was 6 or 7 seconds. It's ballooned out to 10.5. Billy Octane trying to find a way to get back by Jordan Daly one last time. And if I had any advice for Billy Octane, just make sure you have the last chance to take the lead in that fight, because you've swapped it around about 5 or 6 times. These two haven't swapped their positions at all, Phil Vitt and Vasiliev, but one might be the only opportunity you get. How many times have we seen Phil Vitt into this position where he has one shot to make the pass? Could it be a heroic move for Pink Performance today, as Vasiliev nearly going off track? Phil Vitt calm, cool, collected in the Pink AMG.
I think just about everyone's heart lurched at that point there when Vasiliev had that little bit of a loss of grip on that corner, and Vic got ever so close. It was good job he was on that brake quite quickly there, because that could have ended in a lot of tears for both of these drivers. But Vic has done an absolutely phenomenal job of catching up. I mean, I was a little bit skeptical when he came out of the pits. I wasn't sure how well this Mercedes would be able to catch up to the car ahead, but he did that very quickly. He just has to find a way through now if he wants to secure second place for himself. And I think he's holding back a little bit, honestly. I think watching Vic, it doesn't look like he's gone for too many dangerous moves. We saw one earlier where he began to slightly go around the outside, but then opted into dipping out. And for now, he's just been following closely, looking like he's just waiting for a chance to strike. And having watched what has happened throughout the rest of the field, this might be the smartest option here, is just to wait for maybe that opportunity to open up in itself. Obviously, the Mercedes and the Aston Martin are very similar in regards to their strengths. They're both quite good at the corners. They both have the same sort of speed on the straights. So absolutely no real advantage in either of those aspects. So they're basically driving a very similar car right now, meaning it comes down to the driver as to whether they are going to come through or not. Vic, though, is doing an absolutely amazing job. He's looking, and you can almost see him. You can see these little adjustments going to every corner as he just considers trying to go through. But we'll see if he can catch up. He's got just under 8 minutes to find his way through the Aston Martin ahead.
Well, as we get near the end of the race, how about a race recap? Jorgensen in the 99 Porsche leads the race. They haven't done for the entirety. It was only after the 112 got involved with a lap car that the 99 went through. They've led ever since. Jorgensen 9 seconds out in front of Vasiliev and Phil Vitt, the two pictured here. Woo! Racing for second place in class. Phil Vitt going up the inside, has the overlap into Druids, just gets cleared as Vasiliev puts it into the middle. There does Phil Vitt, and they're going to be side by side again, and this corner will surely favor Vasiliev, and does, as they go back single file. The crossover move from Phil Vitt down the inside. Could this be the move for second place? Phil Vitt braking early on the inside, braking late. Vasiliev on the outside. More contact, a little bit of a touch, and clear. Phil Vitt clears Vasiliev. Second place, Phil Vitt. Peak performance. An excellently done move. Took him 4 corners to get it, but he has just about got it. Will Vasiliev have a rebuttal?
I mean, when you've got 4 corners...
Oh, yes, he will!
Oh! It looked like it was about to happen there, but when you have 4 corners to do a move, you can absolutely use all 4 of them. That's exactly what Vitt did. You said that Vasiliev had the advantage going to that corner, and he did, but Vitt chose to just count his losses. He dipped into the inside, and that meant that for the next corner, he had the inside, but a lot of sliding around from the Aston Martin 112 there behind the Mercedes. Not sure whether he was losing grip or maybe looking for the inside, but you can see he is eager to get back through every single corner. He is swerving to that inside. He's saying, I am ready to take this position back. And already on the straight, you can see it's looking like he's got a good exit, but it's not going to quite be enough to catch up. But wow, that played into Vitt's hands, and Vitt really helped himself there. But Vasiliev, he's looking to get that back. And honestly, I think he might be about to fight in the next few corners, Jesse.
Yeah, I think he might. I think he's a little bit of desperation, too. He's trying to fill the mirrors, trying to throw Phil Vitt off balance. If I was his teammate, I'd be telling Vitt, just don't look in the mirror. Don't worry about it. You caught him. You're faster anyway. And hopefully you're going to drive away. And I think, on the other hand, Vasiliev, who, of course, is driving the fastest car on the track, that's what the very purple number 3 means. They're in 3rd place, but the purple background means that is the car that has the fastest lap in the race. The red number background is just the car we're focused on for those uninitiated. Continuing the summary, as these two continue to race, that's not for position in class, but in silver, Kaladian in the 30 has retaken the lead after a spirited battle between them and the 7 that had gone on for it felt like the entire middle section of this race. And the 30 now leads handily. Carlos Kaladian leads in high silver over Anderson in the 7, and Hutchinson has run a valiant race in the 4 BMW in 3rd in that class. And this, of course, is the AM leader, Wisniewski, in the 727 Academy Motorsports car. And they have had a bit of an adventure today with some of the other classes, but have emerged the top dog in AM after all, but it wasn't that easy as they had some early battles to deal with. DeBont's currently in second in AM, but they won't be for long as Billy Octane goes for a big boy slide. They're going to lose a place to Garrett Fisher, and that might be all she wrote for Billy Octane as that car is
Oh,
still
no.
slow.
Oh, that's an Alpine coming back through from a booth. Why is he not accelerating?
Something's wrong with Billy Octane's car. The 304 stopped the Druids. I
Sometimes that happens.
believe.
I think
Yeah,
the
he didn't
engine.
have
It looks like the
anti-stall, did
engine
he?
got out. Yeah, sometimes when you go off track, the engine can have a little bit of a moment, I'll call it, where it gets stuck at a certain point and it won't let you accelerate any faster. And it looks like that's what happened to Octane there. So what you have to do in the situation is exactly what he did, which is come to a stop, just go back into neutral and then back up into first gear, and that will fix the issue for you and allow you to re-accelerate again. Again, it's just one of those things where sometimes when you go off, if you're just at that slightly wrong point in the gear, it gets stuck and there's not a lot you can do with it. The engine just stalls and that's it. But now that is an unfortunate end to the race for Octane. He's dropped back, I think that's 13 seconds now on Fisher ahead, so he will no longer be having that exciting fight that he had with Daly, and that will now just be between Fisher and Daly ahead. But in terms of fights that are happening right now, this is, I believe, the fight for second place where Vasiliev, he's looking to try and find his way through Vit again. He's dropped back a tiny little bit, so Vit still looks like he's carrying a little bit more speed around the rest of the track, but certainly do not count out the 112 Aston Martin yet, as he's certainly not lost the Mercedes ahead, and he will be trying to find his way back through as soon as he can.
Yeah, he's right about there. He could get one more shot at Phil Vitt here, and how often do we see it? The last person that has an opportunity is the last one that gets the shot, obviously. But they so often in GT4s get the move done, and of course with no time left for rebuttal. And what a move that was by the 727! What? I don't even know what I saw.
I think this is the second time this race we have seen Pixley be behind another car which has done a very clean overtake, and they've just followed through. Like they make it look like oh, there goes the Alpine now, actually losing a bit of grip.
Did he save that?
I think he did. He just missed the wall there. He managed to get on the brakes quick enough and swerve the car back away from the wall at the very last second. So he will not be having to pit to fix any damage. I don't think he would have anyway, to be fair. It's under 2 minutes left of the race, so he might have just been able to limp around. But Pixley, as I was saying, they've shown you the other side to overtaking. They've always had a car ahead of them. They've waited for that car to do the move, and then they've just followed through. And that is a perfectly valid way of overtaking. We've seen Pixley make it work, and that is going to be how it goes. That Alpine, by the way, was for position as well. So Pixley is now on the podium for silver with that move alone. So all in all,
You have
a
it.
brilliant move from the Ginetta.
Oh, and just finishing up the summary, Wisniewski, of course, in the 727, leading an AM after an early battle, has settled into a nice 12th place overall in first in their class. DeBont, who's running second, will not get to keep that place. I would assume Mir will finish second, Howard will finish third, and DeBont will finish fourth in that class. So Mir and Howard will finish second and third respectively. Mir and Howard, who were having a battle a few laps ago, that's cooled off, and the gap's going the other way, I am afraid to report. Speaking of the gaps going the other way, Vasiliev has fallen off the back of Phil Vitt just a little bit, and we were just looking at Lutz Motorsports. Till Jorgensen in the 99 Porsche. Do not underestimate his race, and this ain't gonna work. The 3 trying to sneak it through the grass. That's not gonna work. Hutchinson with contact, but I feel like the 3 invited that contact, and that was beaten in the 86. That probably got through as well. Jill Jorgensen, Lutz Motorsports in the 99 for the first time this season will win here in GT4 action in Pro. What a brilliant race. Speaking of brilliant races, Phil Vitt does it again. Peak Performance 25. Second place, Vasiliev, an excellent job. Fastest lap and another podium for the 112. Daly will come home fourth. Garrett Fisher with an excellent recovery with him and Samir Foch inside the top 5. Excellent points for the 878. Billy Octane will have to settle for 6th, but a valiant effort Nonetheless, Svinček will finish in 7th. Kaladian in the 30 will take home the silver top prize today. And Anderson will be second in that class. Pixley, with that excellent move, looks to be on for third in silver. Just a brilliant race from start to finish. And Tim Peck, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, I am so glad we got a finish today.
I'm also very glad we got finished there. Of course, we were a little nervous that if the servers did go down, we would not be able to restart them because of the problems that are happening at the moment. But you know it has been a very exciting race when it took you more than 10 minutes to go through a run through of the entire thing, with all the interruptions as well that kept happening as people continued to fight all the way up to the line. I mean, this has been such an exciting race today here at Brands Hatch, and we have seen some brilliant moves. We've seen a lot of calamities as well, and a bit of accidents happen that I'm sure a lot of people won't be too happy about, but we'll focus on the positive, because some of the racing we have seen today has been the best racing I have seen by far. We have had some great battles, and it has really gone to show the skill of a lot of these drivers that were racing here today.
We barely talked about it, but I'll mention it now. The 123, the FFS racing team that had been dominating this series, was not here today in pro. With the 99 winning and then being, I think, around 10th place in points, Phil Vitt and Pink Performance, they were second. I don't know if they gained enough points to take the lead in the championship. I think they actually might have done. I think Pink Performance might be your new championship leaders, but look at the 112, look at the 878. All of these cars have a legitimate shot of winning this championship. All that FFS Racing did here today was make the end of this championship very interesting indeed. We've got a few rounds left, and it's going to be spectacular to say the least. What an excellent race today. Congratulations to all of the class winners, deservedly so. A tough race, Tim Peck.
We only have 2 races left in the season, of course. Next week we'll be off to Suzuka in Japan. That will be on December the 2nd, so certainly do not go anywhere between now and then. You will want to find out what happens towards the end of the season. Then the final race on December the 9th will be at Kailami. So a lot of exciting racing to come, and we will see how these drivers fare so far. We've seen a lot of surprising things so far this season. The Alpine in particular has been one of the talking points as we try and determine exactly how good this car is going to perform across the season. And honestly, Jessie, I'd say another great day for the Alpine. They got into a little bit of trouble, most of them did, but for the most part, I'd say the Alpines held their own. It wasn't anything special, but it was an average day, I'd say, for the Alpines.
Average day for the Alpines, and I was worried about the Ginettas too. They were nowhere, and then all of a sudden we have them on the podium. An excellent job by them as well. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be just about it for us today. Of course, we invite you to like, subscribe, hit the bell for more GT racing action. Myself and Ryan Mawson will be with you tomorrow evening for the continuation of the Friday GT3 Championship, and on Saturday, the continuation of the Night Out Championship. And of course, as always, Ryan Gill and Nate will be with you on Monday for the Porsche Cup Series. And Tim Peck, myself, and Christian Stricker will be right back with you, as Tim said, for more GT4 Team Championship action in 1 week's time. We were worried we wouldn't get the race in. We ended up getting the entire race in, and boy, what a race did we get treated to. It's going to take a week to sort through the points and to sort through all of the action here today. We hope we'll see you next week. And just one more time, a big thank you to all of our partners: Race Department, AK Informatica, Driver 61, Fanatec, and Sim Racing GP. You can find more information about all those lovely people, including how to get 25% off your driver coaching, by using the links in the description. Whew, what a race today at Brands Hatch. Never disappoints. And we will see you next time here on RCI TV. Until then, have a good night.